Hey, everyone. Welcome back. We're so glad that you've come back to join us for another episode of So You're Ready to Date. We've got some great stuff on the agenda to talk about today because we all know that not everybody that we date is going to be right for us. So today we're going to talk about how to break it off. Last week we talked about when and what some of those red flags might be. And so now, if you've seen some of those red flags or you're just not feeling it, or even if you're scared to get started dating because you're afraid that you're going to have to tell people bad news and tell them that it's not the right relationship for you, this episode is definitely for you, because here we're going to jump in and we are going to talk about all the things on how to break it off.
Yes, I think this is probably one of the most uh, despised conversations that maybe you have to have, the one that you dread the most. But like in all things that we've talked about this season and last, this is all about a way you can prepare yourself to have these conversations and maybe approach them in a way that feels kind, because we're going to communicate clearly, but also doesn't do that thing that we all hate, which is just ghosting people and avoiding the conversation, but having those adult conversations so that you can both have that clean break and be able to move on.
Right. And you said something that I want to go back and I want to hit on for just a second. This is a dreaded conversation because it's a hard conversation. And there's a book out there, and if I remember, I'll tell Lisa who the author is and we can drop it in the show notes. But the book is Difficult Conversations, and it talks about the fact that the most difficult part of a conversation is only 9 seconds. If you can make it through the first 8 or 9 seconds, that's it. And let's be honest, we could do anything for 8 or 9 seconds, right? So you can have these conversations. It's okay to have these difficult conversations, even if they feel yucky, even if we don't like them. But it's also a muscle to work on that clear, honest communication. And that's all this is communication. There's nothing wrong with the other person. You're not telling them that they're bad. You are telling them that you're respecting yourself and that this relationship isn't right for you.
Right. And, it's okay to trip over your words. Nobody's expecting you to be perfect in these conversations. But like Angie said, like any muscle, any kind of new skill or habit that we're trying to build, we have to keep practicing having these conversations. And maybe this is the time where you invite your good friends in saying, hey, I need to have said conversation. Can I run a couple of things by you? Who says you can't do a little practice run like those practice job interviews? I need to practice breaking up with you so that I feel okay when I have to have this conversation with this person. So use some tools. We're going to give you some tips and tools so that hopefully that 9 seconds goes a lot faster than you think it's going to, and you can get through this conversation and be very adult about the whole thing.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And so let's talk about the two methods. There's more than two, but if we really break it down high level and start at the very high level, there is the text method and a verbal method. You can either verbally break up with somebody or you can give them some sort of written message. And this is just our opinion, and you have to do what's right for you in a relationship. And any message and any communication is better than no communication. So if it comes down to it, text is better than ghosting. However, we were kind of talking and we both really agree that for us, the right measurement of whether you use a text form or a verbal form would be if you've had more than a couple of dates, or as Lisa pointed out so poetically before this call, if you've seen each other naked, it should probably be a verbal message.
I really hope like my dad and nobody I really know is listening. Like, yes, if you've seen each other naked, you need to have an actual conversation. There's the text is just not going to cut it at this point.
Right. And I think I personally agree with that. Again, this is just our opinion. We are not the navigator of your life, so you have to choose what's right for you. But it is polite, and although it may be a difficult conversation, it is just a conversation, and it is very respectful to communicate if it is somebody that you have been seeing for any length of time at all.
So I feel like we should put a little asterisk here as well. If you at any point feel for your safety that in person would not be safe for you in any way, shape, or form, then by all means, send them a letter, a pigeon, a text message. So, above all, yes, we want you to be able to have these hard conversations, but your safety is always paramount. So, if you feel like an in person conversation would not go well, then by all means, go with a text. But like we said, communication of some form is better than none.
Yes. Yes. So, with that being said, one of the things that we want to come back around to, whether it's text or whether you are going to have a verbal conversation with somebody, the easiest and most straightforward method is to just state that this relationship is not working for me, or I don't see this going where I envision. I want to step away from this, and avoiding the why. Don't tell them all the reasons that it's not working out. As soon as you tell somebody why a relationship isn't working, that gives them a chance to come in and defend, and gives them a chance to come in and say, "Oh, but I'll change, but I'll change, but I'll change." And here's the thing, they may change, but if you're at the point where you're ready to walk away from that relationship, them changing in one area is clearly not going to fix the relationship. And you want to avoid that conversation, because that conversation is much harder, and it makes the other person feel bad about who they are. Or it doesn't make them, but it can make them feel bad about who they are as a person if they're not fulfilling your needs in a relationship.
And I think a lot of times, especially as women, there's this sense of if I can't fully prove why I feel like this isn't a love match, why I don't feel this connection, why this isn't working out for me, then it's not legitimate. And it can be just simply a matter of, I just don't feel a connection. I just don't think that, we have similar goals. And so when you step away from having to prove why, when to justify to them and even to yourself why this isn't a love match for you, it takes a little pressure off of like, I can just not feel it about this relationship. And that can be enough without having to have this list of proof and reasons why it doesn't work. So that whoever might ask me, I can show them, well, see, I had proof. I had real reasons why I didn't want to do this, as opposed to just trusting your gut that this maybe isn't the right thing for you.
Yes, yes, absolutely. There is no need to justify how you feel. Male, female, whatever gender you are, there is no need to justify how you feel. You feel how you feel, and it's okay to feel how you feel. And by justifying it and by explaining the why when you're breaking up with somebody, you're also giving them the power to try to make you negate how you're actually feeling. And it's okay to feel how you feel.
So I think one of the easiest ways, and I've used this one a few times, is just to be say, hey, I've enjoyed getting to know you. I don't feel a romantic connection. Or maybe it's like, I don't feel like we're looking for the same thing. I wish you the best of luck. Simple, like 3 or 4 lines, whether you say that to somebody, whether you send it via a text, it can kind of work in either situation. But again, just very simple, saying, yeah, you seem like a nice person. It's been fun talking to you, whether it was or not. Sometimes you don't necessarily, maybe it hasn't been super fun, but just being very simple about, yeah, it's just not an alignment for me. It's just not for me. I wish you the best. And then leaving it at that.
Yes. And that really is all that it has to be. Like you said, whether that's in text or in person, it can be just that simple. So feel free to take some notes, to write that down, and to utilize that script, because it's great. It's generic, but it is to the point. It closes that door, but it also opens that door for you to have those conversations without fear of the other person really trying to talk you out of the breakup. They might still do that, but this gives them less fuel and less ammunition to do it.
And I think for the people who come back and say, well, what about it wasn't a right thing? What about it wasn't good? And I think you can just come back and say, hey, I just didn't feel that romantic connection. I know what I'm looking for. I just don't think it's going to happen between us. And you can just keep repeating the same thing if they keep pushing back on that. Again, you don't have to provide them reasons. You can just say, hey, I don't think we're a match. I appreciate that. I'm not going to give you any more information. So and move on from there, because you really don't owe them more of a reason other than cutting it off and being as kind as you can in that respect.
And I think that being that straightforward and that, I don't even know the other word for it that I'm looking for, but just being that straightforward and that simple in it is respectful to both you and them. Again, you're respecting their feelings. While it might hurt to go through a breakup if you've been together for any length of time, this also doesn't go through and give them a whole bunch of reasons how they haven't shown up in the relationship, because you don't want to fight. You're closing a door, you're walking away from it. And another thing that can happen is if you start to give them those reasons, they may come around and start pointing out all the reasons and all the ways that you weren't living up to this relationship. And you're closing a door, you're walking away from the relationship, you have no need to be in it. And yet there is the chemistry brewing there for a blow up and for a fight for no reason.
Yeah, the whole blow up and fight. Then it feels like this tit for tat. We're like, well, you said this about me, so I'm going to come back and give all of this stuff about you. And then all of a sudden, what was supposed to be this hopefully clean break has broken down into this battle of, well, you didn't put the toilet seat down that one time. And remember when we went out to dinner? So becomes this kind of like laundry list of nitpicking all of the things that you did wrong, all of the things that they did wrong. And again, this is not about placing blame on any one person. It's just about that kindness of saying, I need to look for something different somewhere else. I hope you find what you're looking for, but it's not going to be with us together.
Right. And that is another way that you can say it, and wish them well and move on and go on your way. And I think that that has a much higher success rate of those amicable breakups. Not that the other person isn't going to be upset, but that way nobody has to walk away from a relationship. Well, you don't have to anyway. That's a very strong word, but you're giving everybody a very strong opportunity to walk away from the relationship without feeling like a personal failure.
Yes. Yeah. So again, this is all just kind of based on what you feel works best for you. I haven't had to do the in-person one yet. I know that that's probably coming in my future at some point, but the text ones have always gone really well. For the most part, I had one guy, he took it fabulously. I knew he would because he was a sweetheart of a guy. I had another one who I thought he understood because he said, yeah, great. Best of luck to you too. And then continue to reach out to me. And he would be like, hey, what you doing? Hey, how's it going? And I'm like, okay. So just be aware that yes, they may come across like they understood what you were talking about, but there may be that point where you have to say, listen, I've already explained to you, I'm not interested. If you continue contacting me, I'm going to have to block you. I don't want to have to do that because you seemed like a nice guy, or you don't have to say that part in particular. But then I think you have to maybe get a little bit more stern and be like, hey, I've already explained myself. I'm not interested. You need to stop contacting me.
Yes, and it's okay to come back and say that as well. It's okay to hold your ground, and it's okay to not go back to relationships, because let's say you make that clean break and they come back around and want to try it again in a month. If you want to, that's fine. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm not saying that you don't want to, but if you don't want to, I have known friends that have gone back into relationships because they felt quote unquote obligated, and they are not obligated. You are not obligated to go back into that relationship. And it is okay to hold firm and say, thanks, but no thanks. And I already told you this and I'm good.
So if you have any other ideas or want more clarification, maybe on how to kind of step away, we're always open to more talking about things more than once. I think we probably will, because we always just kind of scratch the surface on a couple of things. So we always want to make sure that we're opening it up to see more avenues. So maybe there's something we missed. So let us know at soyou'readytodate@gmail.com.
And we will be back next week. Can you believe it's been another 12 weeks already? So next week will be our season 2 finale. So join us when we talk about our favorite moments from season 2.
See you all next time.